Austin would like to know. Just so everyone is aware, since the camera has limited range, in the room this evening are Clerk Chipman, a member of the Board of Ethics, myself, Carrie Von Hoff, acting chair from the March meeting, and Jordana Wojtacki, attorney for the Board of Ethics. We are socially distanced, so can't see everybody, but I will represent you all that is in this room, and that is all. All right, since I was the prior acting chair, I will go ahead and gavel us in and call us to order and check that we have quorum. Carrie Von Hoff is here. Mr. Chipman is here. Sue Calder is participating by Zoom, and y'all can see that she is here, and she'll wave to let y'all know that she is in fact here and that we do have a quorum, three members present. For clarification from our last meeting, I'll just note that Mark Sheldon, who participated as a member of the Board of Ethics in our March meeting, has made the decision to resign from the Board of Ethics. So that is why we have 3 this evening instead of 4, but that is quorum. And we'll move on to the next bit on the agenda, which is the designation of the acting chair. And so I'll offer that up to my fellows.
Chair, I was just going to make a quick comment. For our various board, city council meetings and so forth, we've been doing a motion at the beginning just to authorize that this meeting will be conducted virtually. Oh,
yes, that's the number 3 on my agenda.
Oh, great. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So I'll just take a motion or suggestion for an acting chair for this meeting.
Susan, I think would be excellent.
Susan, you have to unmute yourself. You're muted. We can't hear you. Still muted. Luke, can you unmute her? Or?
I did it.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you.
I move that the prior acting chair continue as acting chair.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
We need a roll.
Aye.
Roll call because it's
Ms. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Chipman?
Yes.
I vote yes, so the motion carries, and I will continue in the role of acting chair. The next item on our agenda is given the current situation of where the state of Illinois is with respect to the COVID-19 pandemic. I would take a motion to suspend the rules to allow for member participation electronically or by telephone.
I suspend the rules. I move to suspend the rules to go to remote.
Thank you. Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we do a roll call?
Yeah.
Can we do a roll call vote? Ms. Calder?
Yes.
Yes.
I vote yes. The motion is 3-0. So we will suspend the rules to allow folks to participate by the electronic format. Our next item is to approve our meeting minutes from our March 3rd, 2020 meeting. Those are in the agenda packet for our open session. And if the members have had a chance to review those, I'll ask if you have any changes or to the minutes.
No.
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Joyce.
Second.
We'll vote Ms. Calder.
Yes.
Yes.
I vote yes. So the meeting minutes will be approved for the open session of the March 3rd meeting. Do we do the closed session? I will represent that the members have had an opportunity to review the minutes of the closed session, the executive session of the March 3rd meeting. if members wish to discuss those, we can do that in closed session. Otherwise, I would entertain a motion to approve those minutes of the executive session as well.
I move to accept the executive session meetings.
Thank you.
Second.
And we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Chickman?
Yes.
And I vote yes, so the executive session minutes will be approved. Given that we've had people sign up for public comment ahead of time, and we have one individual who has expressed an interest in providing public comment, we'd like to take things out of order and do public comment first. The person who would like to provide public comment is Elizabeth Stair.
Wait. Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been given information that public comment is last, and we weren't notified ahead of time that public comment would be first. It seems to me that this is a disruption in the schedule, and I'd like to know why it's necessary to change the order.
Sure. Since we only have one and it's going to be a time limit of 3 minutes, we thought that this might be an appropriate way to manage it.
All right, if it's just one and it's 3 minutes, I would agree with that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, so I believe Ms. Stair is on the line, and it looks like she's off mute. So if you'd like to provide your, yes.
We also received the written comments from her.
Yes.
Put that as part of
We did receive public written comments as well from Ms. Stair, and we will enter those into the record. But she has also expressed the interest in providing oral comments. So we will do a 3-minute time limit. And Ms. Wojcicki, will you manage the 3? Yeah, thanks. So please go ahead, Ms. Stair.
Thank you. So I know everybody has reviewed the footage from the October 14th, 2019 City Council meeting, and that's being discussed today. I made a public comment on this day, applauding the Ridgeville Park District for redacting the sections of their outdated 1988 general ordinance that gave any person employed for security police powers without warrant and without due process, including the right to detain and set bail. This was an important action for the Park District to take, and there were other important anti-racism actions that had been raised for them to take. Since the Park District is a separate taxing authority, the alderpersons didn't appear to be paying attention since they don't have jurisdiction, apparently. I was there to bring attention to this in light of Resolution 58R19, the commitment to end structural racism and achieve racial equity, that had been passed the month prior. I wanted to encourage the aldermen to understand what was happening under their noses and stand in solidarity with me and other residents to encourage the Park District to complete their anti-racism transformation, which would be in the spirit of Resolution 58R19. I mentioned briefly that Alderman Rainey was not helping matters since she'd made racist comments at the March 2019 board meeting in her 15-minute long public comment, where she identified herself as both a resident and an alderman.
No.
I did not call her a racist individual or a racist. I said that her comments were racist in nature. Her comments were. There's a difference. She is consumed with thought that someone is calling her racist and not really looking at beyond herself to hear the bigger issues. Alderman Rainey pointed me out specifically at the end of that meeting and made threatening warning statements on the dais. She says, I want to address a citizen comment tonight. And she said that I'm not threatening, but I am warning this woman who came tonight and other members of that crew that speak about my being a racist. This intimidation tactic and attempt to silence me and to silence public comment is despicable and unethical, and this should not be tolerated behavior from an elected official. I live in the 9th ward and I have office space in the 4th ward for my business. My children go to Washington Elementary. I'm deeply concerned and intimidated. I feared some sort of retaliation.
Okay, I'd
My
like to
warnings,
respond. I don't know
worked
what
to a
this
certain
has to do with anything. I was stalked by this woman in the Las Vegas airport. Please, please, this is not what we're here about. Why do I have to put up with this woman?
Amy, it's not appropriate for you to be responding at this time. It's still her 3 minutes.
This is not fair.
You'll have an opportunity to respond at a later period, but this is her time. This is her, we're accepting public comments from Ms. Stair. You're not a member of this board. We need to finish listening to what Ms. Stair had to say.
Can we add some additional time?
That's fine, because it just,
Oh,
Ms. Stair, are you still speaking?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to mention something that she just mentioned, actually. So in November, I emailed her about her warnings to see what the nature of them was, and I got no response. I also emailed Mayor Haggerty and interim city manager Storley with my concerns because I wanted to come back to city council meetings, and I was concerned for my safety. Again, no response. As chance would have it, the following week, I was boarding a plane with my kids to Las Vegas for Thanksgiving, and Alderman Rainey was directly behind me boarding the same plane. My heart was racing. I introduced myself, and I said that the Evanston Cannabis Tax Reparations Fund was a great idea, a great resolution. And at the baggage claim, I asked her about her warning to me from the dais. She said, "Stop calling me a racist." I explained to her that I didn't call her racist, but her comments were. Again, I asked her about the nature of her warnings to me as a working resident and mother in Evanston. She doubled down, looked me straight in the eye, and said, "Just don't do it again." This is an issue of ethics, so I bring this to you, the Board of Ethics, as we are bringing our collective attention to this meeting. So I hope you watch the entire meeting. I ask you to determine if this is acceptable behavior for an elected official in the city of Evanston. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Stair. I think that is all that we have for public comment this evening. So thank you for signing up, and definitely avail yourself of that opportunity in future. We'll move on to the next bit of the agenda, which is moving into old business. And the first item on the agenda is the hearing on the ethics complaint 19-BOE-006. The complainant is Mr. Daniel Coyne, who is with us via Zoom. And Alderman Rainey, who is the respondent, is also with us via Zoom. Both parties will have 30 minutes to present whatever evidence they choose to provide over the course of that 30 minutes to prove up the case. So at this time, Mr. Coyne, the floor is yours. And one point of order, during this discussion, are Board of Ethics members permitted to make inquiries of the complainant and the respondent and any witnesses. And I've just been given the indication that the answer to that is yes. So if Board of Ethics members have questions, are you able to hear me okay, Mr. Coyne? I'm sorry. It looks like you might be holding. Now you're on mute. I'm sorry.
90%. That's okay.
Okay. Well, I'll strive for 100. So if you're having trouble hearing me, just please let me know, and we'll try to amp it up a little bit. Thank you. With that in mind, Mr. Coyne, the floor is yours for the next 30 minutes, and Ms. Wysocki will keep time.
A point of order and questions, okay. Madam Chair, before I start.
Yes, sir.
I'm not an attorney, but I fully respect this process. But for points of clarification for all of us involved, could you help us understand whatever deliberations you have in executive session to discern the evidence that you hear today? Does it require a vote of 3 votes to move forward with whatever decision you make, or how does that work? There's 3 people, right, that are voting, and that's your quorum? That
is correct. That is our quorum.
So Mr. Coyne, just to clarify and answer your question, can you hear me okay? Or
that's better.
Makes it hard. This is your Dana Wysocki. We have a quorum of the board, which is the 3 members. It takes a majority of the quorum, which is 2 members, to pass anything. So it's just 2 members that need to reach an agreement, and that will take place after they've heard all the evidence that you've presented. I do want to clarify, and I don't want to step too much on Ms. Chair Van Hoff's comments, but we did receive your written submissions. We did receive the video links that you embedded, and that, you don't have to repeat things that were already sent to the board, because those have been reviewed. Okay.
Point of clarification, please.
Mm-hmm.
Part of my presentation is the 3 clips that I gave you by email. Will the IT person be prepared to share that when it's during my prompt?
Yes, so
Thank you.
Mr. Luke Stowe is the IT person. He is here, and we did a test run just before the meeting. It seemed to work okay, so cross your fingers that it continues to work okay. All right?
Thank you. And my last question, I believe, is during our emails back and forth, you had asked for any evidentiary documentation that we would like to give you to pass on to the other board, and also to put on the public website, the Board of Ethics packet for this hearing. And I submitted to you, I believe, 7 documents that I wanted as part of my evidentiary documentation. And what I saw on the Board of Ethics webpage for this packet and this hearing was only one of the 7. Could you touch on that?
I am happy to answer that. So everything that you emailed to me was forwarded to the Board of Ethics. So all the board members have seen everything. We had administratively made a decision that until a exhibit was accepted by the board, because it's my understanding there may be some objections. I'm not going to guess what's going to happen during the hearing. Until that was clarified, which is the board's decision, until that was clarified, we didn't want to put it online. So it's really, I'm happy to, to make sure that the IT department can get all that stuff up, but we wanted the board to have an opportunity to weigh in on the exhibit before it was posted online.
So to make sure I heard clearly, I think I heard 99%, and I appreciate you sharing this. The 6 documents that I wanted as part of my public record for evidentiary was given to all 3 board members, but it took 3 votes. It would have taken 3 votes to include them in the packet, and I didn't receive all those votes. Is that correct?
There hasn't been any vote. So that's something we're going to decide tonight as we proceed. So, and you want to present an exhibit, we'll give the respondent, Alderman Rainey, an opportunity to object. If there's no objection, it can be presented then. If there is an objection, then the board will have to rule on that objection. At the end of the meeting tonight, or your hearing, essentially, we'll know what exhibits have been accepted by the board and what exhibits they've decided not to accept. And at that point, the exhibits that have been accepted, I'm happy to make sure that those are put online. I'm not sure how Evanston will do that, but it will be publicly available. That's not a problem.
Okay, just want to make a point for the record that I fully affirm your decisions, but I believe it would have been more appropriate to put on the public record via the digital PDF packet what I had submitted as you asked. But I'm okay with that. I understand, and it could be that it's added later. But I think sometimes on these hearings, to build trust and collaboration with our larger community outside of just those of us involved in the hearing, it does help to build trust to add everything. It just seems more transparent, that's all.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that all the kind of logistic things you have, or?
Yeah, any questions? Are that all the questions? Yeah.
No.
Okay,
We're good.
then we can begin.
All right, Mr. Coyne, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair and members of our Board of Ethics in Evanston, I want to say thank you. Thank you for hearing this case. Thank you for serving our community in this capacity. Especially, I want to say that I fully appreciate and deeply appreciate you doing this during this particular COVID pandemic. I deeply value Evanston, and I am encouraged by individuals and groups such as you who share your talents and your gifts while shaping our community into something that we all strive for. Although ethics discernment can bring adversarial neighbors and their divergent views into open tension and dialogue, it is this very due process that enlightens public servants, enlightens elected leaders, and I believe it enlightens constituents. Regardless of where your discernment this evening takes us, please know that the very act of holding this hearing will help all of us to be better neighbors and hopefully better citizens and better leaders. Given the digital hearing reality that we face tonight, it would be impossible to take up my offer afterwards to celebrate all this good work when everything is done. So please consider my suggestion that in the confines of our own homes, let's have some cookies and ice cream when this is done. In other words, I recognize that your job is not easy. In fact, it's difficult. There will be people that are happy and people that are unhappy with your conclusions and your discernment and your recommendations. Your previous board of ethics served our community honorably and well. I fully understand that the members felt in the past the need to step down after feeling exhausted, feeling frustrated, and feeling unable to fully function. Let's all take a new stance now, a deep breath, and let's learn from this board history and move forward with a newly formed mission. What mission? Well, I think it's to help shape our city's ethical practices and guidelines. Now, as you know, and as my official ethics complaint states, I believe Alderwoman Ann Rainey violated our city's ethical code during her comments on the 2 April 1, 2019 Evanston meetings, that being the rules and the city council. It is my contention that Alderman Rainey, while being paid by the city and while using city property, used her words in those 2 meetings to sway voters on the evening prior to the April 2, 2019 general election. Before I further clarify my complaint, please listen carefully to the following 3 short video clips from April 1, 2019. The first clip is of myself during the rules public comments, and the next 2 are of Alderman Rainey during the Rules Committee and the City Council. Madam Chair, please, if you would, have the IT play these 3 clips.
Yes, Mr. Stowe, if you can do that, please.
Sure. Just to clarify, Mr. Coyne, the first video you want to play is at the Rules Committee from April 1st at 3:57.
At what?
3:57.
Oh, I can tell you, sir, in 1 second. I've got that on a second document.
I just want to make sure I play the right clip.
Well, Dan Coyne's public comments on the Evanston Rules Committee, it starts at 33
seconds.
And it ends at 3:51. Thank you, sir.
Okay, we'll start with that one. Please bear with me. This is, we don't usually do videos during Zoom, but I think I got it worked out. So hold on 1 second.
Thank you. We need to be graceful to all of us. So, yep.
Thank you. Okay, just clarifying, everyone can see the screen, correct?
Yes.
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 Okay, I'm going to try and play it now at 33 seconds here.
Thank you. 2 minutes. Yeah, thank you.
My name is Dan Coyne, and I live in the 9th Ward. Since you are spending time today revising and discussing the council rules on public comments and ethics, I want to share about my experience with a recent public comment at Ridgeville Park District. On March 14, during public comments, Alderman Rainey spoke for 8 minutes during our Ridgeville Park District Board of Commissioners meeting. I have had the honor of serving on this board these past 6 years. One of the most concerning comments spoken by Alderman Rainey was, quote, "Any black person who wants a porta potty in their backyard is stupid," unquote. She went on to suggest that the board should raise taxes via a referendum instead of using porta potties in our parks. Ms. Rainey also stated that Commissioner Rob Beatty doesn't wear big boy pants in his role as our vice president of the board, and that he has, quote, "sat on his big boy bottom for the last 6 years doing nothing." Well, I disagree. My African American neighbors like to relieve themselves with dignity and privacy just like everyone else. Furthermore, my neighbors of color are not stupid. Mr. Beatty, the very first African American elected to Ridgeville Park District Commissioners, has honorably served our community, and all of us are better because of it. City Council, your silence and filing of your peers' unethical behaviors, racial slurs, and outright bullying must end. This citizen, at least, will not remain silent. Not for anyone, regardless of their perceived power, who treats our citizens with such disdain. Today's rules discussions and improvements cannot remain silent on this problem. Do you agree with Alderman Rainey that Evanston's black citizens are stupid? Do you believe her claim that Mr. Robert Beatty's leadership has been worthless? Is this the kind of behavior we want from our city members? I'm an elected government servant, and just like you, I affirm to abide by the constitutions of the United States and the Constitution of this state of Illinois. I am guessing that we all agree that our First Amendment rights of free speech are the bedrock of this great experiment in democracy, including Ms. Rainey's words. However, when an elected official uses racist, hateful, and libel words, she needs censorship. She needs accountability. Perhaps it's time that we examine ourselves collectively and discover a more acceptable means to govern. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, I trust everyone was able to hear that okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Coyne, is there another clip that you wanted to play?
Yes, please. Can you hear me?
Yes.
It is the same day, April 1st. It's the Evanston Rules Committee, and it's Alderman Rainey's politically campaigning at minute 3:57 to minute 7:54.
Okay, so it's immediately following your comment.
You're right.
Okay. All right, I'll go ahead and play that.
Alderman Braithwaite, I think this is one of those times when an alderman gets to respond. There's a provision where aldermen get to respond.
He'd like to take privilege.
May I have that privilege?
Yes, yes, Alderman.
So, you had to have been there. I think those of you who know me know Dan Coyne, know that he is a provocateur. And what you heard right now, you had to have been there. And as a matter of fact, many members of the Ridgeville board objected to his use of that camera during that board meeting because there had been a motion that he not be allowed to use that camera because the Ridgeville board had used their own camera. However, he knew that I was coming because I was coming to respond to a vicious, hateful video that was placed online and mentioned me several times for some ungodly reason, I don't even know. And his point was that the Ridgeville board was racist and all sorts of things because they would not allow porta potties in parks. And my comments were directed mostly to Mr. Coyne, not to Mr. Beatty. Mr. Beatty sort of goes along for the ride with Mr. Coyne. And what I said was that black people, white people, any people of any color, race, creed, or ethnic background or income level did not want porta potties in their backyard. I said anybody who wanted a porta potty in their backyard was stupid. I stand by that comment. If you want a porta potty in your backyard, then you've got to screw loose, quite frankly. And I suggested that the way to go was to raise money through a referendum, to go to the taxpayers and say, and as a matter of fact, my comments were almost exactly, you are not raising enough money in the Ridgeville Park District to really provide for decent infrastructure. The way to go, and the Ridgeville members, I'm one of them, I'm a taxpayer in Ridgeville, perhaps we support raising more money to provide ourselves with better infrastructure. What have you two done in the last 6 years to provide for us? You've done nothing but complain that the board does nothing. You are the majority on the board. You've done nothing. Do something. As a matter of fact, I was really good. You should have been there. You really should have been there. And, you know, they continued to complain. So that was my argument. That was my argument. Not that Bob Beatty was a bad guy, but that their whole approach was bad. And I stick by every single word I said. It had nothing to do with the way he just presented it. As usual, Dan Coyne is wrong.
Claire Kelly, next speaker.
She wasn't.
The next video, please, and the last one is the same date, April 1st, 2019, Evanston City Council meeting. And that one is Alderman Rainey politically campaigning at minute marker 28:35 to minute marker 32:40, please.
Mr. Stowe, could we ask one quick question? There
Sure.
are chat comments, and I'm not sure that they're being recorded. They'll be publicly available after this meeting closes, and I'm just concerned about preserving the record.
I can do a copy and paste into a new document to preserve the comments from the chat.
Yeah, maybe we can do that to have that preserved.
Sure. 28:35, correct, Mr. Coyne?
Yes. Which one is it?
Oh.
28:30?
I'm sorry. 28:35 to 32:40, sir.
Okay. I'm going to play that now.
Thank you.
You want to?
Well, you had citizen comment first.
Citizen comment twice. Okay, quick call of the wards. Who do we start with a roll? Alderman Braithwaite?
Oh, I'm right here.
You'll be back here for executive session, okay, and to vote on that. Alderman Simmons, who's not here, so.
Would you call on me?
Alderman Rainey.
Yes. I'd like to respond to Coyne's diatribe, which is the second time this evening he's read the same abusive, blatant misinterpretation of my comments at the Ridgeville Park District Board meeting. I went to the board meeting in response to a crazy video that was on Facebook, which mentioned me several times. He and Bob Beatty did a video, and I was really addressing Dan Coyne's comments, not so much Bob Beatty, who really goes along for the ride with Dan Coyne. And what I said was very different from what he said. What I said was, why are you complaining so much? You've been the majority on the board of Ridgeville Park District. You are arguing that the board has been racist in disallowing porta potties in backyards, in the little parks that are in the Ridgeville Park districts. Why don't you have a referendum where you can raise taxes? I'm part of the Ridgeville Park District. I'd be willing to pay more. Your infrastructure is lacking. I believe Ridgeville Park District members deserve more in terms of their infrastructure. I don't believe any black person or any white person or any person of any creed, color, of anything wants a porta potty in their backyard. Anybody who wants a porta potty in their backyard is stupid. I stand by that comment. Who wants a porta potty in their backyard? Nobody wants a porta potty. My argument was that anybody who's been on the board of Ridgeville for 6 years and continues to argue, and who's been in the majority and continues to argue that nothing's been done, shows a total lack of leadership, which I hammered home, and hasn't gotten anything done. Shame on them. They need to put on their big boy pants and stop sitting on their big boy butts and do something. Get your leadership skills together and do something. Raise some money. The people in Ridgeville, in the Ridgeville district, deserve more. That's exactly what I said. I stand by every word, every single word. If you want more, if you want to do more, act. Don't complain that nobody's done anything in Ridgeville. Do it now. I stand by that completely. Why everything has to be twisted and made ugly, but at least he got to come on the night of the election. Maybe he got a vote or two, I don't know, but good luck to the good people who are running. Bad luck to him.
Alderman Fleming.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, that was the last clip, right, Mr. Coyne?
Thank you.
Sure.
Point of order for our Madam Chair.
Yes.
A question. I
Yeah.
know I had 30 minutes in my presentation, and you probably have a timekeeper. I don't have a watch in front of me, but is it possible to reduce a minute or two from the time so far just because of the technical glitches?
Yes, we added some time back to account for the technical difficulties. I asked Ms. Wysocki, I don't know if you could hear me say it, but I did ask her to do that. And I think we have 11 minutes left on your time.
Thank you. I'll let Alderman Rainey's words speak to my evidence of her ethical violation. The rules are clear. No officer or employee of Evanston shall intentionally perform any prohibited political activity during any compensated time as defined in the code. No officer or employee shall intentionally use any property or resources of the city in connection with any prohibited political activity. And those political activities that I think are clear in Alderman Rainey's words. Any activity in support of or in connection with any campaign for an elected office. 2, soliciting votes on behalf of any candidate for an elected office. And 3, campaigning for any elected office. It is my experience, in fact, that all the topics that you heard Alderman Rainey speak of while being paid and using city property, every single candidate in the campaign for Ridgeville used those topics. Those were our campaign topics. Now, to some, these may sound insignificant, but for our little park district, that was the campaign. Referendums, raising taxes, not raising taxes, infrastructure versus porta potties, which are cheaper, leadership skills, who's the best leader, wishing good luck and bad luck for candidates. All of these are campaign issues that she unethically voiced during paid time on city property, and I think that violated our code. Now, Alderman Rainey, along with every other human being this side of the Milky Way, has every constitutional right to join in on any campaign or topic, to support or not support any candidate as a private citizen. But campaigning on our city tax dime is a clear violation of our ethics rules. And I'd like to call my first witness, Alderman Rainey, please.
Alderman Rainey.
I'm objecting to being your witness because I have no idea what the point of my being your witness is.
Madam Chair.
What is the point of my being your witness?
Madam Chair.
I'm not refusing. I'm just asking you what the point is.
Madam Chair, my question is to you.
I can't comment on what the purpose of calling other than to bring forth evidence that would tend to prove or disprove. I'm sorry, can you hear me okay, Mr. Coyne?
Yes, could you repeat it? I've got a question for you as my point of order.
Sure. My understanding, I can't comment on the specifics of why Mr. Coyne would want to have Alderman Rainey as a witness other than to bring forth evidence that would tend to prove the complaint.
Can I just ask, this is your Dana Moisaki. Mr. Coyne, did you want to call Alderman Rainey to authenticate the statements? Because I believe she stipulated that those videos were accurate.
Oh, right. I think that speaks for itself, but I do have a couple of questions for her. I'll keep it on the rails.
What do you mean rails? What does that mean?
I'll stay relational and keep it on topic.
I'm not inclined to incriminate myself, and I would imagine that's what you're going to try to do. I'd also like to know why you have written down that you are using Rob Beatty's teenage daughter as a witness. I have a question about that as well.
Okay.
I think we can address that probably in your 30 minutes, Alderman Rainey, if that would be all right.
Well, unless he's going to do that now. I mean, this is his turn.
Oh, okay. So Alderman Rainey, I'm not sure that without hearing the questions, I don't know that the board can rule on your objection. I think you've objected for the record, and until we hear what the questions are from Mr. Coyne, I don't know. I'm not sure that we have grounds to to sustain your objection.
I'm just asking. That's all. I'm not objecting. I'm asking.
Okay. Well, I think right now, because you're the witness that he's asked to call, that we need to deal with that issue, and then If he does call a second witness, we can deal with the issues surrounding that second witness.
Okay.
Just so the record's clear though, you're objecting to your testimony, and then let's hear the question and see if we can move forward.
Okay.
And I presume the time was paused.
Yeah.
Mr. Coyne, I don't know if you could hear me, but I did confirm that the time was paused while we dealt with the procedural issue. So you have your full time. 8 minutes left.
A point of order, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
Dan, let's go.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
can you please swear in the witness?
Yes, I don't know. Just like, do you promise to tell the truth? Alderman Rainey, do you promise to tell the truth and nothing but the
I
truth?
promise. I promise.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you. May I begin?
Yes, sir.
Alderman Rainey, thank you. My question is, could you please, for the record, state your name and your title?
Are you serious? My name is Ann Rainey. I'm Alderman of the 8th Ward, City of Evanston.
And for the record, Alderman Rainey, could you please answer the question, how long have you been serving as an alderwoman for Evanston?
I have served since 1983 minus 4 years.
Alderman Rainey, are you aware of any other elected Evanston civil servant or elected person who has more elected service than you?
Not sure. Never looked it up.
Is it understood by you that you have more experience currently in the current board, the current council?
Yes, that I'm certain of.
And Alderman Rainey, is this an elected position?
Yes, it is.
And do you campaign one way or another for each round every 4 years, or however the cycle is for the election seat?
I do more or less, yes.
Thank you. There's one more question that I have, and that's clarifying the words that you used during the April 1 Rules Committee and the April 1 City Council meeting. In both meetings, you talked about Blacks who didn't want porta potties, that they were stupid. Could you please define Blacks for us?
Could I define? No, I'm afraid I'm not an anthropologist, so I'm afraid whatever words came out of my mouth, you would use them against me. So I don't feel that I'm really confident. I would say people of African-American descent, people of color.
Thank you.
That does not include Hispanics, Chinese, et cetera, et cetera. So
thank you.
I'm assuming that's a catchy question.
Thank you. In your own words, could you help us understand what stupid means?
It means people who are not thinking clearly about the urine smell and the chance that people would be tipping over porta potties right under their window, and that's what that means. I'm thinking of all the consequences of having people not thinking of all the consequences of having a porta potty under their window. And I'm getting pretty sick and tired of this line of questioning, because this is a serious ethics complaint and you are attempting to humiliate me, and I'm about to end answering your questions.
Actually, this was the end.
Let's talk about the violation you're accusing me of, okay? Okay, you have said the thing you're accusing me of is violating the Ethics Act, having campaigned on city property, and that has nothing to do with it.
Excuse me, Alderman Rainey, if we can let him have his time, and
all right,
you'll be able to make that argument during your 30 minutes.
Well,
thank you, and
I thought
that's the end.
To be fair.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any more questions?
Do you have any more questions?
Just a point of order. I don't have any more questions for Alderman Rainey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Coyne, for your questions. I really appreciate your service to the Ridgeville Park District.
Madam Chair?
Yes, sir.
Before I call my next witness, I just want to state that for the record, it is my contention that indeed Alderman Rainey is the most senior with the most experience elected city council member and has had more campaign experience than anyone else, so much so that they even have a rule named after her, the Rainey Rule, that allows for different procedures to be waived. But I do believe that she is one of the most wisest candidates out there. She knows exactly what campaigning is, and that's in fact what she was doing at Ridgeville, which is her right. But my contention from the beginning of this complaint and tonight is that her campaigning on these issues and trying to sway voters while being paid by our city tax dollars and using city property is unethical. I would like to call my second witness, Carmia Beatty, please. And she's right here next to me.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Coyne, just so you know, you have about 3 minutes left.
Thank you. Can
Okay.
you swear her in, please?
And what's your name again? I'm sorry.
Carmia.
Ms. Beatty, do you promise to tell the truth and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Miss Beatty, for the record, could you state your age and where you go to school and what year?
Yes, I am 17 years old. I go to Evanston Township High School, and I am a rising senior.
And what ethnic identity, if any, do you identify with as?
I identify as a mixed Black woman.
Mixed Black. And you have you reviewed the videos that were played today earlier and also tonight?
Yes.
And did you hear the words from Alderman Rainey?
Yes.
Was there anything that Alderman Rainey stated that stood out to you?
Yes. For me, saying that you and my father were, Mr. Beatty, were not qualified and hadn't done anything during your term definitely stood out to me as something that voters would take in, especially the day before an election.
Thank you. That's all the questions I had. Perhaps Alderman Rainey has any, I don't know, is this a time for she can ask questions or not?
Yes, Alderman Rainey, if you'd like to ask any questions, you may do so.
No, I'm not going to ask any questions.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
In my remaining minute or so, I simply want to again reiterate my appreciation for this ethics hearing and for all the efforts that you put into this. I know you're a new board, and I think it takes a whole village to support you and lift you up. And regardless of how you discern this, I do think that many of us in this city very much appreciate the process you're going through, and please know that you're not alone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coyne. I think now Alderman Rainey has the floor to have 30 minutes to present her case, and I'll turn the floor over to you, Alderman Rainey. Alderman Rainey, if you're talking, you're muted. I'm sorry. I think you're still on mute. There you go. Thank you.
So I'm going to start out by stating what the complaint is. Dan Coyne made several paragraphs of what the complaint was not about, and much of what it is not about, many things that he's spoken about. But what the complaint is about, and I quote him, Dan Coyne's ethics complaint filed November 10, 2019 is this: please accept this note as my official ethics complaint against Evanston Alderwoman Ann Rainey, 8th Ward. On or about April 1, 2019, Alderman Rainey politically campaigned while being compensated by the City of Evanston and while using City of Evanston property. I would like to share with you a little background regarding my relationship with Ridgeville Park District, of which I have been a member since approximately 1977. I have attended a few meetings, maybe 4 or 5 in my entire life. I have initiated several events which I believe have made the Ridgeville Park District better. Through my longtime good relationship with Brian Rosinski, who is the executive director of the Ridgeville Park District, and other board members, the city of Evanston and Ridgeville have completely renovated equipment at Brummel Park, and a few years ago, we replaced the little children's equipment at that park. We did the Kaylee Tot Lot years ago and created the now famous food truck festival and concert at Brummel Park. Working together, I reached out to Brian and the board members with Alderman Hanson and figured out how to establish the much-loved Bike the Ridge and Fall Frenzy, hopefully in its 12th year this year. On April 1, 2019, I went to the Civic Center to attend the Rules Committee meeting, a standing committee of the City Council, as well as a special council meeting consisting only of an executive session meeting. The Rules Committee had a packed agenda, 6 or 7 items, which is very unusual for the Rules Committee. And the last thing I could have imagined was that a candidate appearing on the ballot that very next morning, election day in Evanston, would be spending time that evening appearing at City Hall. Dan Coyne's appearance that night and his citizen comment attack on me at both meetings was so out of place that I guess it was rather brilliant, because it left me blindsided and totally unprepared, which I always find disconcerting. To be clear, when the aldermanic chair of a committee allows a member of the council to be personally attacked, that member has a right to defend her motives, integrity, character, etc., which I made a feeble attempt to do. Following the Rules Committee, the same thing happened at the council meeting. Coyne read the same blatantly twisted representation of my March 14 criticism of his paternalistic video bemoaning the fact that despite he made up a majority of the board, his team accomplished nothing. Mind you, that was the candidate for public office coming to a formal standing committee meeting and a special council meeting of the Evanston City Council on election eve of the Ridgeville Park District, April 1, 2019. The election was April 2. He got me good. I was feeble in my response and unprepared, unlike now. However, I did know the council rule allowed me to defend myself, and I look back wishing both aldermanic chairs had intervened. Perhaps they too were caught off guard. I violated nothing. Let's start with that. Let's go to the point where the commissioner files the complaint. The election is over and 8 months have passed. On November 11, 2019, I wake up in the morning and I read Evanston Now. I don't know if you can see this. I read Evanston Now at a little before 8 in the morning. And I read the paper and it says, official seeks to punish another for criticizing him. What? Later in the morning at 20 after 11 a.m., I receive an email from Evanston Legal Department letting me know that an ethics complaint has been filed by Daniel Coyne that says I campaigned on city property illegally 8 months ago. Just to keep you up to date, more recently on June 18, here we go. On June 18, Dan Coyne brought us up to date again. And here's what this says. June 18, 2020 at 9:23 a.m., Dan Coyne says, 5 years ago, my calling out Ridgeville Park District's institutional racism resulted in collective reflection among board members, city leaders, and stakeholders. The Great White Hope does it again. My July 1, 2020 Evanston Board of Ethics complaint against Alderwoman Rainey is self-evident that our work of creating anti-racist institutions has only begun. Oh, thank God. So I get the letter from the legal department that Dan Coyne says I campaigned on city property illegally. And now he's reporting in Facebook just to keep everybody up to date, because after all, it's been 8 months since his April 1st report. Let's talk about the validity of this complaint. Let's talk about it. The rule is in section 1-10-5, parentheses B1 of the city code, states, no officer or employee shall intentionally perform in a prohibited political activity during any compensated time as defined here, and no officer or employee shall intentionally use any property or resources of the city in connection with any prohibited political activity. Political activities are defined as campaigning for elective office. What happened on April 1, as an elected official, alderman of the 8th Ward, it was my responsibility as a corporate officer of the city of Evanston to attend a rules committee meeting at 6 p.m. at a city-owned building at 2100 Ridge at the Lorraine H. Morton Civic Center. Following that, at the same building owned by the city of Evanston, I was required to attend the special council meeting executive session. As we discussed earlier, I was attacked by Daniel Coyne with the same speech. I responded and defended myself on city property. Coyne's motivation for being at that meeting 8 months after his April 1 appearance has never been analyzed. After all, he was an active candidate at the time, but this is 8 months later, remember. Under 1-10-5B1, there was absolutely no intention to perform any prohibited political activity during my compensated time. Absolutely none. Further, I am no way intentionally used any property or resources of the city in connection with any political activity. I had to be in the building. I had to be there. And furthermore, while I do not consider myself an employee, I would never use the prestige of my position on behalf of a political party or any political person, not to mention that as an alderman in the city of Evanston, I'm considered to take very seriously that I am nonpartisan. Nothing in this complaint or in my actions is a violation. Let's face it. He came and attacked me on city property. I had no idea he was coming, where I was required to be on April 1st, and I defended myself. I did not go after him. I did not say, oh, there's Dan Coyne. Let me tell him how much I can't stand him and I'm gonna support other candidates. That never happened. He came and chose that night to come and attack me. I'm telling you, I take very seriously this complaint. I defended myself and I was allowed by law to do that. I wish others well and I did not wish him well. That is not a violation. Let me tell you what some of the violations are. Here's a violation of this provision of the code. Let's say I went over to City Hall and I got together with somebody else there and we used city water billing labels to send out mailings for a fundraiser. Here's a violation. The clerk and I used city stamps to mail postcards. We had people Oh, it's early voting. We took people out of their offices who were working at City Hall and had them go out and hand out palm cards during the day. Those are violations of this provision. All right, let me tell you some of the things that people in the state of Illinois have been brought before the Ethics Committee on. Here's a good one. I mean, in Aurora, this is a good one. In Mount Prospect, a trustee, the vote was 6-1, the Ethics Committee, used a policeman's badge, a make-believe policeman's badge, and went around and told people he was a cop. Yeah, that's in Aurora, an alderman was reprimanded because he passed out nude photos to other members of the council of himself. Really, I mean, that's really that actually happened. So when one of our past city attorneys was doing research when they were doing the new ordinance, he found out that communities very similar to ours don't even have an ethics committee. Found out that Naperville, Elgin, Highland Park, Champaign, etc., don't even have boards of ethics. And in many places like Skokie, etc., they just use their council or their mayor or their city manager to handle these kinds of complaints. That I said that I didn't like Dan Coyne and that I wished everybody else good luck is not a violation of the ethics code. And all the things that Dan mentioned, taxes, this, that, and the other, every campaign in the world has that. This is an absolute shame that we are spending thousands and thousands of dollars to hire private law firms to handle this kind of complaint. I am finished, and I hope that he can somehow or another handle his anger and get over the fact that, you know, everybody doesn't agree with him. Before I stop, I am going to read you what actually was said about big boy pants. Bob Beatty's name was never mentioned. I said, we deserve something in those equipment boxes, and I'm reading like maybe 5 minutes into my speech. We don't deserve equipment boxes. We need something next to the new bathrooms that we are going to build with the money that people who put their big boy and big girl pants on with the referendum. We're going to build some bathrooms and some storage areas. And we're going to have real bathrooms and real storage areas. You know, that's what I said. I was talking to the entire board. I didn't want to use the lie word, but Dan Coyne so misrepresented my statement, but it was much more dramatic that way. And shame on you, Dan. Shame, shame, shame. Thank you very much. And I'm sorry everybody had to take the time to be out here.
Thank you, Alderman Rainey.
Thank you. Oh, I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Why was the city's legal department's jurisdictional opinion not ever presented publicly? I would like it to be made public, and I had it in my stack of papers that I submitted to the board's council.
Do you, so are you entering it as an exhibit?
I did, I already did.
So, okay, so I guess what we need to go through, because this is a little bit of housekeeping, and I have the same questions for Mr. Coyne in a minute here, but the city memo, the confidential memo, you're submitting in support of, or in response to the complaint, correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and Mr. Coyne, is there any objection to including that as an exhibit from Alderman Rainey?
Oh, thank you for asking. That's actually one of the one of the documents you left out. So that's actually in my original, along with my response to the attorney.
Okay.
So both of those actually I'd prefer to be included.
Okay, so I'm gonna, because I just I wanna make the record really clean here, so just give me a moment. So you have no objection to including this, I think, Hugh's memo of November 22nd, 2019 as an exhibit, correct?
No objection. I 100% affirm it. Thank you.
Okay, all right, and then the other exhibits that you wish included, included your complaint, which that's been made public, that's already part of the record, but you also provided an emailed response to the the city attorney's memorandum, and you wanted that to be included.
Yes, please.
Okay, Alderman Rainey, do you have any objection to that being included?
I don't know what that is. Do I?
It was provided to you.
But can you just identify it? So
Yeah,
I
am. I'm sorry. I apologize. So it's a email from Mr. Coyne dated Friday, December 13th of 2019. And it was originally sent to the Board of Ethics email address, and it was forwarded later on to me in late January. Do you have it?
Can you give me a hint?
No, that's fine. That's fine. I'm gonna tell you what when I emailed it to you. So give me just 1 second, okay?
Okay.
That might be the easiest way to find it, right?
Yeah, probably. Does it have a topic? I can look at it that way.
That's okay.
Okay, here I'm looking at all your emails.
I know there's been a bunch.
And you're saying it was December?
Well, that was the original
okay.
email from Mr. Coyne, but I forwarded to you this in the last week. Just 1 second.
Oh, did it say? Okay, let's see.
It had my name on the top because it was.
Yeah.
I'm the one that made the PDF.
June 17, maybe.
That's probably that sounds right.
I'm sure I have it. I'm sure.
Okay,
it's
so
fine. It's fine.
My original question is whether you have any objection to that being made part of the exhibits that are received.
I'm sure it's fine. I'm sure. It's
okay. Fine. Okay. And then one other item. So, I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. Mr. Coyne, you submitted an article entitled "White Fragility," and that PDF also included. Sorry, I thought maybe it was just that article. I thought there was a. I'm sorry. So Mr. Coyne, you submitted the article "White Fragility." Let's do that one first. Correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And is there any objection to that being made part of the record for this hearing?
What does that have to do with my campaigning on city property?
Mr. Coyne, can you answer that?
Sure. I understand that I have 10 minutes of rebuttal time. So during my 10 minutes.
We're not, this isn't eating into your rebuttal. Were you?
I'm sorry?
This is not in your rebuttal.
It's not eating into the time of your rebuttal. This is just kind of.
No. My answer to the question on the floor is, why would I want that as part of the public record? And the White Fragility article is directly related to my answer in my 10-minute rebuttal.
Oh, okay. Okay. So perhaps we can take it then. All right. Is there any other exhibits that I've missed that are not going to be discussed in your rebuttal that we need to determine if there's any objection?
Yes, I don't have the email I sent you answering your question, but there were 7 items and I would like all 7 to be included, please. I believe one was the definition of racism.
Okay, that was in the body of your email?
Yes.
Okay. Ms. Rainey, do you have any objection to that being included as part of the record of this hearing?
I don't. He can put whatever he wants in. Can I put in his attendance record at Ridgeville? Would that help?
That's up to you.
I'm just being snarky. I want to make sure that in the record is Rob Beatty's very gracious apology for the video that caused all this commotion. I thought that was really, really special. I would like that to be in there.
Okay, Mr. Coyne, do you have any objection to that being included?
None at all. That's public record.
Okay. All right.
I just want to make sure it's in there.
Okay, sounds good. Mr. Coyne, was there anything else? I think we covered everything. Did I miss anything?
I believe we did cover all 7. Yep.
Okay, perfect. Then I'll turn it back over to Chair Von Hoff.
Thank you. So, Mr. Coyne, you will indeed have 10 minutes of rebuttal time, and Ms. Wysocki will keep the time, and I'll try to give you a little heads up when you're coming close to the end.
Thank you. And a point of order first before I start, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Could you clarify for Alderman Rainey and I, after my rebuttal, do you go into executive session then, or do you hear other cases and take care of business and then later on in the evening go into executive session?
We'll go into executive session. Right
immediately?
after. Yes, sir.
And I know you cannot tell the future. Now, I don't know anybody who can, but I'm just wondering for those who might be listening, including myself, is this something we should wait for 10 or 15 minutes, or will it be hours?
I mean, it's hard to predict with any confidence. I wouldn't think it would be hours. I would be surprised if it were hours. I would also be surprised if it were only 10 minutes.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Those are all my questions.
I'm sorry I didn't give you much of an answer.
No, that's good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the floor is yours for the next 10 minutes, Mr. Coyne.
Well, again, as I closed before, thank you to everyone involved in this process, including our ITs and also our engineers at the building. It looks like you might be at City Hall, and it's just, we have a good crew over there. So I just appreciate everybody who prepares it and keeps it clean. All of us need to be cognizant of that given the pandemic. So thank you. I'd like to respond to a couple quick ones. What I heard from Alderman Rainey is some questioning the timing of my public comments 8 months after her ethically violating our ethics rule. And the 8-month period passed simply because, as I explained in my initial complaint, that the timing was all about my going to City Council and listening to her and her behaviors, in particular in that October meeting where I felt like Alderman Rainey was verbally threatening and warning and abusing a constituent who, just like me, constitutionally protected public comments. And that's when I realized that we had a bully on our hands, in my opinion, and that she needed to be held accountable. So I didn't feel that the City Council really heard or reacted to my initial calling her out on her bullying behavior and her racist comments from the Ridgeville board. And then again, I heard it again at City Hall. So that's when I felt like I need to take a close look at the ethics rules. And I learned quickly, because I thought they were pretty clear, that there was not any time limit and that I was allowed to do that. And she certainly, by her words and her admission, was intentionally campaigning against myself and Mr. Beatty and supporting 2 other candidates, Martha Gaines and Matt Mitchell, during the tax dollar dime. Also, if I heard correctly, in her own defense, she talks about her knowledge of the campaign, her knowledge of the voting, the knowledge of the candidates. all of this was intentional, in my opinion, albeit an emotional one, but that's part of good leadership as an elected leader. You need to hold your words and watch your words, and you have to follow a policy, by the way, that for the last 30 years, Alderman Rainey has been shaping, overseeing, and by this time, she should know better. Also, she made a point about some media articles. I don't control the media, but I do believe in our fourth pillar of our democracy. And I believe that authors of any journal or article in the media, be it written or video, has every constitutional right of their own opinions. And Bill Smith is part of that group, and that is his business. Also, I'd like to just simply state that there's no question that there's a bell curve of peers on the city council on their take on Alderman Rainey. It varies in that curve from she walks on water and we need to honor whatever she wants to do. There's also those on the committee that think she's sketchy. Now, there's no question where I am on that curve. I'm much more in the suffered and sketchy description and perception of Alderman Rainey. But that said, that has nothing to do with the facts. And that's what you guys as a board have to look at. The actual four corners of the ethics rule, the words that were used, and your interpretation of Alderman Rainey's words on our tax by our dime. It is my contention that we need to be very clear on our ethics rules. We don't have to arrest people. We don't have to use a sledgehammer. But I do think it is quite appropriate to use this kind of a public hearing to hold each other accountable so that, what? Simply that we can do better in the future. Whether it's Alderman Rainey or anyone up on the dais, we simply cannot allow them. And we want to encourage them to be careful about the words that they use, and certainly do not lift one candidate or another during campaigns. Do not bring up those other campaign issues if it has to do with that campaign. She can do it, anyone can do it on their private time, and I love that. And I appreciate that I also have a bell curve of opinions about my leadership. That's fine, that's democracy. And it doesn't anger me at all. But I do get angry. I do get emotional when anyone, especially in elected leadership, stands up publicly and uses the words that blacks are stupid. I know that I'm a privileged white man, turning 63 this year. I have a lot to learn about being an anti-racist. I am very fortunate that I have people of color and institutions in my community that are teaching me how to be a better anti-racist. All of my training so far has taught me that I have a lot of work to do, and we all have a lot of work to do, individually and collectively. I also have learned that when somebody, even an Ann Rainey, uses racist language in a public meeting, of course you call them out. Of course you say something. Now, as an elected official at Ridgeville, I allowed her to use her constitutional rights to say her words, and I did not stop her. But the next opportunity after that March meeting in Ridgeville was the first city meeting where I could stand up and practice and exercise my constitutional rights as one of her constituents. I live in the 9th Ward, and I have a wonderful alderwoman. But I also live in the city of Evanston, and every single voting alderperson votes on all the city rules and all the city budget, and they are responsible to serve every single human being in the city of Evanston. We are all their constituents. So I simply want to say, we can do better. But all of that said, I do believe your job is simply to look at those two meetings, the Rules Committee and also the City Council. Look at the words that she used in the context that you feel is appropriate and make a ruling. and I will back you up 100% no matter what, because I said at the beginning of my opening statement, this very open due process is healthy for democracy. It's healthy for Evanston, and I think it'll make me a better person. I hope it'll make Alderman Rainey a better person. I hope it'll make our city council a better group. Thank you very much. That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Coyne. One question. There's still kind of the pending question of the white fragility article. I mean, I guess I kind of heard shades of reference to it, but I'm not sure that I understand the link.
I don't know if you had a chance. I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but D'Angelo has been a wonderful resource for the world, but also for Evanston community, where her book, White Fragility, and also some of the articles that she has written. And the one that I gave you is public domain. It's one of her original articles. And it explains racism, it explains white privilege, it explains what I think this really is all about. It's really about Anne Rainey's white fragility, not really stopping and thinking and reflecting on her words about calling blacks stupid. That was the original issue. But I know as an ethics committee, you can't speak to that except for what she said during those two meetings. But she repeated those two things during that meeting. So it also relates to the April 1 Rules Committee and also the April 1 City Council meeting.
Sorry. This is a little bit more of this housekeeping. I apologize. So, Ms. Rainey, you heard what Mr. Coyne said. I'm sorry, Alderman Rainey. You heard what Mr. Coyne said about the white fragility article and why he submitted it. Do you have any objection to the board's consideration of this as it relates to this complaint?
I don't have any problem with you using it. However, I believe it has absolutely nothing to do with the complaint as he stated it to begin with. We're either talking about the complaint that he submitted or we're talking about other things. I'm assuming that this is a complaint about my campaigning on city property. If it's not, you need to tell me now, and the complaint needs to be amended. But when I get my, I wasn't going to take my 10 minutes, but I see now that I have to, so I'll wait until then. I mean, I don't care what he submits. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay, so maybe I can distill a little bit of what you're saying is you're okay with the board accepting it and considering it. You do have you have some concerns about the relevancy of the article as to your complaint, so the board can take your comments into consideration along with the article.
Yes.
Now, traditionally, Alderman Rainey, the complainant is the one who gets the rebuttal. You do not have a rebuttal. If you want to take a rebuttal, I think that the chair for that. It's up. You know, if you do want that, I'm going to leave it up to the chair on whether or not.
That's okay. I don't need it. I'm fine with it.
Okay. All right. Then I think that we can probably close the hearing.
All right. I think with that being said, we can close the hearing and we can. That's right. All right, I'll now entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the written submissions and oral presentations on ethics complaint number 19 BOE 006 made by Dan Coyne, and this board's jurisdiction findings on 19 BOE 007 and 008 brought by Misty Wittenberg pursuant to the Open Meetings Act. Number 1, Section 2C4, to consider evidence presented in open hearing to a quasi-adjudicative body, provided the body prepares and makes available for public inspection a written decision, and 2, alternatively, Section 2C15, to consider professional ethics or performance when considered by an advisory body appointed to advise a licensing or regulatory agency on matters germane to the advisory body's field of competence. In this case, the Evanston City Council. So do I have a motion to go to executive session?
I make a motion to go into executive session.
Thank you. Do I have a second? I saw Ms. Calder say second, but we couldn't hear her, so.
Sue, can you unmute?
There we go.
Say it again so it's recorded.
Second?
Thank you, and we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Chipman?
Yes.
And I am a yes. So we will now adjourn for executive session, and like I said, probably it will be more than 10 minutes, but I do not anticipate it will be hours.
Mr. Stowe, are you still there, Luke Stowe?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, and perhaps you can help the members of the public how we do this on a technological way. So my understanding is that we and Sue leave the meeting, and then we go into the executive session Zoom meeting, and everyone else stays here, correct?
Yes, that's correct. I was just gonna, if everyone could just mute themselves, and then I'm gonna actually pause the recording until we come back into regular session.
I'm sorry, I had a question for the chair. I don't know if you can hear me.
Yes, I can.
Okay, I just wanted to ensure that you had received, I have a notice for an injunction that I had sent. I didn't know if you had received that. I sent it to Ms. Wasaki.
When was it sent?
It was sent at 6:30.
Today?
Yes.
No, I have not seen that.
Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to ensure that you knew that. And if there are any new facts, anything that wasn't presented in hearing, I just wanted to ensure that if you discuss it, that I am present, because I am entitled to hear the facts, including those from Ms. Wasaki's discussions with the law department and the people named in my complaint.
Okay, anything else you want to say?
Yes, that I want to be present if there are facts that you're presenting from your communications with them, as you did in the last hearing.
There's that. What I discussed with the board in closed session is not something that you're privy to. What I discussed with my client is not something you're privy to.
Sure, but I am privy to information that you received from opposing witnesses, if you are basing any determination on that, or if you worked with them anyway in this complaint or in these findings.
I don't even know, Ms. Wittenberg, I'm sorry.
Sure.
Sorry, Chair. I don't even know what you're referring to. Okay.
Sure. So
I'm completely lost right now. You send something to us at 6:30 I guess we can take a break and I can check my email. I don't know what you're talking about.
Sure. Well, it has to do with, the meetings that you had with the law department in between, the facts you discussed, the decisions on merit that you made with Attorney Ruge. I just want to ensure that you have those communications that you're going to share with me before you introduce them to the board as extraneous consideration. And if I will have opportunity to rebut it if you're going to continue.
Well, I know that you are speculating about all sorts of stuff.
Actually, the city confirmed that meeting.
Well, then you can talk to the city about it. You don't have a right to the communications between me and my client.
Sure, but I've never claimed to have that between you and your client. I am only asking to have information from opposing witnesses from your communications with Ms. Ruge, which I also have those. So I'm not sure if you're denying them or not, but I have them.
So whatever you think that I've communicated with the law department, you may submit a FOIA to the city. They can produce all the communications I've had with the law department.
I have. They said they were work product privileged with you, between you and the respondent's department while she was still there.
That's something you can appeal to the PAC.
I'm actually just doing it with the court, but I just wanted to ensure that you knew that I had submitted the injunction so that you could, you know.
I don't know anything about this injunction. I don't know what you emailed me after 5 p.m. today. All right.
Sure. That's why I'm just notifying you, because it was last minute. I only found out that you were, I didn't get any more notice on the meeting. So I know I had requested to do a motion and there was no response. And then I know that you reached out to the other complainant and you did request motions from him. So, I mean, if this is.
There's nothing for you to move on at this point.
Well, due process, but that was what I requested.
You had an opportunity to speak. In March, we gave you adequate time to say whatever you wanted. You made motions at that time. You had an opportunity to talk about your complaints in March. At this point, the board is not accepting any more comments concerning your complaint from either you or the respondent.
I'm not making comments. I'm just asking to know all of the facts and argument.
There's nothing to know, Misty. There's nothing to know. You are speculating that there's something based on your, I don't know, frankly, I don't know what it's based on.
Well, they would be your emails and your meetings and the Zoom log.
Okay, well then you have everything.
Okay, all I'm asking is I just am asking if there are new facts that you're presenting from those communications. I would like to be present. If you deny me, then that's fine. All I'm doing is letting you know as a courtesy, because it was last minute, because I, again, didn't have much notice. I just wanted to ensure that you knew that I had done that, and that's all.
Okay, well, what you're telling me right now is the only thing I know.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, then it's an oral notice.
It's what?
It's an oral notice.
Okay, I don't think there is such a thing, but okay. All right, then we can adjourn for the executive session. And I'm going to, Luke, I just hit the leave button, and then Sue also hits the leave button, and then we go into our own meeting, correct?
That's correct. I'm going to pause recording now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are resuming the open session.
All right, thank you all. The board is back from open session, or from closed session, I'm sorry, back into open session for the Board of Ethics. And we're going to start with the two complaints, jurisdictional findings, on two complaints brought by Ms. Misty Wittenberg, number 19 BOE 007 and 19 BOE 008. 007, the respondent is Mayor Stephen Haggerty, and 008, the respondent is former Corporation Counsel Michelle Mason-Coop. We have written findings that we will publish, but and I will take a motion to adopt the written findings that will be published. But the jurisdictional finding regarding the complaint against Ms. Mason-Coop, 19 COE 008, the board has found that because Ms. Mason-Coop is no longer an employee or official of the city, we do not have jurisdiction over the complaint against her pursuant to section 1-10-4B. We do conclude that certain portions of the complaint against Mayor Haggerty may go forward. We are finding, pending a motion to adopt the written findings, that the board has jurisdiction over portions of the complaint, but not all of the complaint. We do not assert jurisdiction over the complaint against the mayor with respect to reassigning the FOIA officer duties in resolution 57R19, recommending censure of Clerk Reed to the City Council for violating the healthy work environment policy. recommending censure of Reed for violating council rules, recommending censure of Reed for violating the Open Meetings Act, when the mayor and Alderman Fisk were not censured for their violations of the Open Meetings Act as found by the AG's office, recommending censure of Clerk Reed for violations of city policies which do not exist, i.e. hostile work environment policy and healthy work environment policy, and recommending censure of Clerk Reed for violation of city strategy rather than a policy when the city has never sought to punish other persons for violating city strategy. This means that the board finds we have jurisdiction over the following allegations: initiating an investigation into employee complaints against Clerk Reed by retaining Robin Schwartz when the city has never sought to punish other persons for engaging in inappropriate workplace conversations which do not expressly violate the city's workplace harassment policy, retaining outside counsel to investigate the complaints against Clerk Reed when the city had never retained outside counsel to investigate workplace harassment complaints in the past, seeking a criminal investigation against Reed when the city has never sought criminal investigations against city officials or senior staff for any reason, failing to provide independent counsel to Clerk Reed during the independent investigation, failing to provide Clerk Reed with an opportunity to defend himself by withholding pertinent information against him, including the identity of the complaining witnesses and the substance of the complaints against him, reassigning Reed's staff after he issued an internal memo notifying the city of potential Open Meetings Act violation in 2017, retaliating against Clerk Reed for his refusal to comply with the law department's directives to close certain FOIA requests, and his complaint to the ARDC, and 14, this was number 14 in the complaint, directing Clerk Reed to cease and desist the filing of a complaint against Attorney Mason Coop. The jurisdictional findings, if adopted, will be publicly disseminated tomorrow, pending a motion to adopt those written findings, and I'll entertain a motion at this time.
I make a motion to adopt the written findings.
Mr. Stowe, I think Suzanne's still muted.
Sue, can you unmute yourself? All right.
Hold on one second. Let me change the setting. Hold on.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, okay, I go along with the motion.
Are you seconding the motion?
Second it. Yes.
Thank you. I will take a roll call vote. Ms. Calder?
Yes.
Mr. Chipman?
Yes.
And I vote yes. So the motion to adopt the written findings with respect to Ms. Wittenberg's complaints passes, and this will be published tomorrow. Second on the on our list of business is I will entertain a motion to take the merits of Mr. Coyne's complaint 19 BOE 006 under advisement, and we will issue written findings at our next board meeting on August 5th, and I will entertain a motion at this time.
So move.
So moved.
I think I have a motion.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And I will now take a roll call vote. Ms. Calder?
Yes.
Yes.
And I am yes, so the motion will pass, and we will take this complaint and the evidence submitted under advisement, and we will issue a written finding at our next meeting on August 5th, 2020.
Madam Chair, I think Ms. Wittenberg has a comment or question.
We actually already did public comment, so I don't think we were planning to entertain additional comments at this time. I think The other thing was new business, and we do not have any new business at this time. So I think at this point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting until our next on August 5th, 2020.
I motion that we adjourn the meeting until the next one on August 5th.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. And do we need to do a roll call? We'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Calder?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Chipman, and I'm yes. So we will adjourn until our next meeting on August 5th. Thank you all for attending and for your participation.
Thank you.
I have